Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Elise, and this is 10 to Life, where we are talking everything true crime. Today's case that I've got for you is a doozy, and one that is one of the more awful ones, actually, that we have talked about lately. So let me just kind of jump right in. Clare Nicholls is a single mom with 3 kids. She has 2 girls and 1 boy, all close in age. However, there was a very alarming side to Clare, a side that had many people wondering why she even chose to have children. You see, Clare was known to have a very quick temper, and even more serious, she allegedly was only able to have any sort of pleasure or enjoy sex when she was causing extreme pain. So overall, some very aggressive and disturbing behavior. Now, a possible explanation for some of this aggressive behavior could be her rough childhood. Her parents divorced, and Clare left home at just 15 years old. So why would someone with such aggressive behavior, somewhat sociopathic tendencies, and someone who lacks any sort of compassion want children, much less raise them? Did she truly have abandonment issues from her childhood, and was maybe controlling others her way of making herself feel safe in a twisted way? This case just has a lot of twists and turns and has left me with a lot, and I mean a lot, of questions. So let's get right into it.
10 to Life with Elise starts right now.
When Clare was 18 years old, she met a man by the name of John Peterson. He was 46 years old while she was just 18, and John was an ex-Royal Navy radar operator and also a convicted ped. Despite the massive age gap and criminal history, Clare and John had 3 kids together, and they had a very tumultuous relationship with allegations of DV and other serious offenses that almost resulted in the children being taken away from them. Ultimately, they broke up in 2003, and not long later, John ended up being sent to prison for 10 years due to falling back into his old creepy ways and reoffending. So Clare then started dating a new man by the name of Steve, and the strange part about that relationship is Stephen was the ex-boyfriend of her mother, Janet. And Clare and Stephen dated on and off for 7 years. Just beyond weird that you would ever date somebody that your friend or family member, especially your mother, dated, but then to date them on and off for 7 years, just really, really bizarre. And again, could it be because she had a strained relationship with her mother? I don't know. So they're on and off for 7 years, and then they end up being off. And that's when she met Andrew Gardner, another person who apparently had dated somebody in her family. Andrew was her younger sister's ex-boyfriend. It appears that Clare has absolutely zero sense or care about boundaries whatsoever. Clare met Andrew when he was signing up for a special education class, and Andrew is described as quiet and shy with some learning disabilities. Andrew had a great upbringing, though, unlike Clare. He was friendly, but he just couldn't understand how to navigate relationships. He had lovely parents, and they were working class, and Andrew was the oldest of 3 boys, and people described him as loving, kind, and caring. So the home that Clare shared with Andrew was her 8th home in 8 years. And as they were dating, her brother Simon, who was 24 years old, moved in with this couple. Now, reportedly, Simon idolized Clare. And people thought of Clare kind of as like a Mr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde character, however you would describe that. She was this perfect parent who kept things spotless, which is, yes, admirable, but also there's kind of something as too clean, especially when somebody has young kids, to where you're starting to wonder how they're keeping it all together all the time. And her home really reflects that she is in charge and the level of control that she likes to maintain. But part of her control was emasculating Andrew and making him feel disposable. She chipped away at Andrew's identity with her aggressive tactics, and they increasingly got worse and more disturbing and brutal. She isolated him from friends and family, and she wouldn't let him go out at all. By January of 2009, Andrew was only allowed to leave the house to drop the kids off at school. She also controlled what he would eat, and oftentimes she would starve him. And if he snuck food, she would physically hit him. And at one point, she even cut the pockets out of his clothes to stop him from hiding food. Just a true monster. She wouldn't even let Andrew sleep. Andrew would also ask the kids for food, but they would yell at him at the direction of their mother. After 7 months in this home together, things got even worse for Andrew when Clare's ex, Steve, came back into the picture and moved in with them. Now, if you're like me and you're hearing this for the first time, you're wondering, first of all, like, what the heck is going on here? But also, now her ex is back in the picture and Andrew's okay with him moving in. Is there a weird love triangle going on? Like, it is just beyond bizarre. And Steve's IQ was extremely low at 59, which reportedly affected the entire culture of the home. But not only that, Steve and Clare decided to team up, and to team up against Andrew. Steve and Clare began to target Andrew in horrific ways. They would beat, whip, cut, and scold Andrew regularly. They at one point poured boiling water over his feet and even branded him with a cigarette lighter. And when Andrew would cry, Clare would literally just mock him. Just true, pure evil. Sorry guys, this flyaway is in my face and I can't get it out of here. So it's trapped in my glasses. Anyway. So Clare also would make Andrew sleep on newspapers. And the reason why was so that he wouldn't bleed on the carpet from the wounds that she inflicted on him. Now, as if all of this isn't gross enough, the torture was solely for the sexual gratification of her and Steve. Can you say, ew? Ew, 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 ew. Just truly disgusting. I mean, I know there are a lot of people out there who get off on weird things and some people who get off on pain and torture or choking or this or that. But to go to this degree of just targeting this poor man and physically getting off on it, it is just icky. It makes me want to vom. All of this horrific behavior continued until it finally reached a head and it was all about to unravel, and unfortunately, Andrew was the one to ultimately pay the price. Andrew was severely underweight and had 6 broken ribs, and Clare and Steve had sex in front of Andrew while he was just laying on the floor in pain. Then Clare smashed his head into the concrete floor. They both pinned him down and punched him repeatedly, and Andrew didn't fight back. Ultimately, Andrew's broken ribs pierced his lungs, and he died a very slow death. So Clare's brother Simon calls an ambulance at 11:27 p.m. and said that his friend had gotten into a horrible fight. Everyone was trying to cover up the truth of what had been happening in this house, and they also said that he had only been on the floor for 30 minutes at this point. But when authorities were on site, Andrew was only wearing shorts, and he was already in rigor mortis. The medics said that the scene was the worst that they had ever witnessed. Clare's mother, Janet, was also in the home, hiding in the bathroom. It's just so weird, guys. I know I keep saying that, but it is so weird. Forensics found blood everywhere in the home, and Andrew was so badly wounded that it took 6 medical experts days to complete his autopsy. He endured 150 separate injuries, 21 rib fractures, burns, bruises, a fractured skull, bleeding in the brain, and a cut on his arm that was so deep a tendon was exposed. And he was so malnourished that he could not heal. And once again, if you thought that it couldn't be worse, you are wrong. Clare had her 3 children participate in all of these acts. The children were encouraged to torture Andrew, and this was reportedly their version of normal. Clare would go as far as to praise the kids when they would hurt Andrew, trying to, in a sick way, groom them to be just like her. It is just sick and deranged. The kids later testified to punching, kicking, and scratching Andrew, as well as carving X's and O's into his chest while playing that game tic-tac-toe, but on his body, and using nail varnish and ink pens to dye those incisions almost as a faux tattoo. Andrew was completely powerless. He'd lost his identity to Clare's controlling behavior completely. And it's understandable to think, why didn't he try to escape? But we know that Andrew had some learning disabilities and that he did love Clare at one point. So he may have thought that she could change, or even worse, maybe in some sick way, he thought that this treatment was somehow justified. Andrew had everything that Clare didn't. He had support, encouragement, and love, and she stripped him of all of that. Clare pled not guilty to murder, but guilty to manslaughter. And her brother Simon, who idolized her at one point, cooperated with the police and turned on Clare immediately. Her murder trial began in 2010, and in court, she shouted at Simon while he was telling the truth and testifying, yelling, "That's rich coming from you. You were the one who kicked him in the ribs," trying to throw the blame onto Simon, which it's probably not the best display of innocence on her part, but it also does demonstrate poor impulse control that she has. After this outburst, she had to be restrained in court because after this shouting, she actually attempted to attack her brother Simon, and the trial ended up being paused. Steve also described that final attack on Andrew, saying that Clare was hitting and punching him, swearing at him, and he was trying to lash out with his arms. Then she lost her temper and started pushing him, banging his head on that concrete floor in the front room. Then Steve says she started yelling, "I've killed him, I've killed him, I've killed him." In January 2010, Clare was sentenced to life with a minimum of 30 years. Steve was sentenced to life with a minimum of 20 years, and Simon was given a minimum of 25 years. The judge told Clare, "You have a deeply entrenched personality disorder." And this toxic trio then decided to appeal the minimum terms as quickly as possible, as though it was somehow unjust in their eyes. So in June of 2010, all three sentences were re-examined, and it was declared that they were more than fair, so that appeal was denied. They will only be released after the minimum terms are served, and that's only if the parole board approves it. Experts concluded that Clare is a psychopath, which is classified as a personality disorder, and also that she had targeted the vulnerable through control, isolation, and manipulation. Her reign of terror only finally ended after she tortured, dehumanized, and murdered Andrew. And this case, guys, like I said, it is just beyond weird, and there are so many questions. I was trying to find out as much information as I could on this case, but it was really hard to come by. So if you have more information, please, by all means, leave it in the comment section below. But what I find so interesting, sorry, I'm just getting comfortable here because I feel like we have a lot to talk about. What I find so interesting, and one of my biggest questions here is, first of all, why is she dating people that her family has dated? That is weird too. Where did this aggression and sick and deranged pleasure pockets, I don't know how else to call it, come from? Where does it stem from? Is it really something from her childhood, or was she just born bad? Also, how did Steve get back into the house? Why is she doing this? Why is she having her children involved in this too? Because not only does she want to groom them to be like her, but possibly because she would feel less responsible or less guilt if they were doing it too. Although I don't think this woman has a shred of guilt or ever felt guilt or remorse. I just have so many questions as to the players involved, the why behind it all. Why didn't Andrew leave? How did this happen? Why didn't anybody intervene? It's so weird, and the information out there is so limited, but I wanted to talk about it because it kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of these cases that we've been covering, like the House of Horrors and the versions of, where it's mainly parents who are doing this and inflicting this to children, but we're also seeing it now the opposite, children doing it to parents, parents doing it to parents. Now, the list goes on. So I wanted to highlight it because it just really does go to show the level of true evil in this world. And also, I say it, and it's a broken record, it brings awareness and it helps us all look and learn to identify things when they look off. Even if Andrew was only allowed to take the children to school and nothing else, couldn't somebody at the school, even if he was in the car, possibly have seen him, recognize something? I don't know, maybe not. Or if the kids were more exposed to videos like this or education on crimes that have happened in the past, would they know that what they were being told to do by their mother was not right? And would they put a stop to it? That's why I just feel like generating awareness is so important, because I do feel like, as awful as it is to hear, in a weird way, it helps educate people a little bit more as to what is acceptable, what's unacceptable, what to look for, certain red flags, different signs. You know what I'm saying? So while I usually like to cover cases that have more detail in it, and so we can kind of start to piece together the why or the how, I still felt it was important to highlight this one because there are still so many open-ended questions and so many empty pockets of information to fill, but you still can see the root of the evil in it and the behavior that was done, if that makes sense. I don't know. I know I'm kind of rambling. And again, if you know a lot about this case and if you've heard some of it, because some of you have requested this case, leave the details you know in the comments below, because I've had a hard time piecing it together. And even though it was in 2010, it's still pretty recent, like relatively speaking. So it's not like it's a crime that happened so long ago that it's ancient history and there weren't computers around or Wikipedia or crime outlets or media outlets to where you can't source the information. Like, it's somewhat recent. So why there's not more information, I don't know. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Not only the information about this case, but also what do you think was the driving factor to make Clare the way she was and to get off on this sort of pain and then to enlist her ex-boyfriend, who was her mom's ex-boyfriend, who then was her current boyfriend, to like do this with her to where they would like get off together. Like, what are the odds of two people connecting and finding each other like that? All come to find out, the mother Janet was hiding in the bathroom upstairs. So like, she's in the house with her ex-boyfriend, with her daughter, who's having sex with her ex-boyfriend in front of the boyfriend that her daughter has, who she's attacking and torturing. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. I feel like I'm going a little crazy here. Feel like I'm taking crazy pills a little bit. I just can't understand it. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. All right, thanks for tuning in on today's case. If you want us to show your support for the channel, don't forget to hit that like button on your way out and share this link with a friend, share it on your social media, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Sorry for going on that tangent at the end there, guys. I'm feeling a little loopy today. I don't know why. Maybe because it's like midweek and I'm just like ready to like have the holiday approach and I'm just like, too much of this. It's like starting to get in my mind. But anyways, I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. And until the next case, stay safe.